makes a story a Little Red Riding Hood tale? And could this very old medieval poem be an early version of the popular story? I'm Liz, and this is Into the Hoods, a series where I'm delving into the history of Little Red Riding Hood fairy tales. This week, we're looking at a small excerpt from a long Latin collection, Fecunda Ratis, or The Richly Laden Ship, by Egbert of Liege. The excerpt is simply titled A Girl Saved from Wolf Cubs. Let's look at the story and then we'll pull it apart. Egbert claims that the story he is about to share is well known by the country folk, and that it could very well be a true story. A small girl, only 5 years old, is given a red wool tunic by her godfather after her baptism. The child wears it on a walk one day when she is attacked by a wolf mother and dragged back to its den, where the wolf leaves her as breakfast for her cubs. But the cubs simply climb atop her with kisses and nuzzles. "Do not damage my tunic, mice," the little girl says. "My godfather gave it to me for my baptism." It seems that the holy act protected her from being ravaged by the little baby wolves, no more harmful in that moment than tiny mice. So, is this little poem an early predecessor of Little Red Riding Hood? It depends on who you ask. Some folklorists believe that we should count works of literature such as this one in the historical tracking of folk tales, which are traditionally stories that are passed down through the oral tradition. While others believe such literary works, whether they are inspired by folk tales or not, should be a separate entity. You may remember in my episode on Perrault that his version did something rare in that he created an original work based on folklore that then became folklore because it was circulating as much by word of mouth as it did by print. Medieval poetry or medieval romances do cross over a lot with fairy tale plots. In the chivalric romance Persephorus, one plot point seems a lot like Sleeping Beauty because an enchanted woman is asleep in a tower and she is woken up by, well, her boyfriend rapes her and she is impregnated. And this is an act we see in a later Italian Sleeping Beauty tale, The Sun, the Moon, and Talia. Chaucer's tales frequently share plots with fairy tales, such as the lowly lady of the Wife of Bath's tale, and you can see her mirrored in folk tales such as Tatterhood. So it isn't a wild claim to see Egbert's little poem as a second cousin to Little Red Riding Hood, especially since he claims that the tale comes from local folklore. Interestingly, Egbert had the same methods as Perrault of using common folk tales for a more literary or moralistic cause. That all being said, Egbert's poem only connects to Little Red rather superficially with the red cloak and the wolf. The story is missing elements we generally see in other Little Red tales, such as the wolf disguising itself as Little Red's grandmother, as well as the little patter of "what big body parts you have." It is possible that Egbert took a more traditional Little Red tale from local folk and eliminated those parts, but we can't really know that without a time machine. Though some work has been ruminating in the field of phylogenetics to try and answer some of those questions. What do you think? Next week, I'll share a Taiwanese folktale that folklorists also argue about whether it is a Little Red tale or not. Find out in the next Into the Hoods.